Good morning and welcome to Morning Java, brought to you as always by our friends at the Get Go Cafe and Market, where if you use their app, Bradford, they're doing the 24 merry days of Christmas on there. All kinds of good offers.
I always use the app. That's how I order.
You can order in advance.
Oh,
too.
yeah, that's what I do. When I'm on the way to the arena or the practice rink.
Not when he's driving. Never when he's driving. We wouldn't let him do that. The Penguins have all kinds of weird problems. You and I both saw them on the various segments of the trip that we covered. I'm sorry, I keep coming back to goaltending.
Yeah.
But as a core, not as a blame, not as a focus of blame, but as a core thing. You talk about being fragile. Where does that start?
Well, it always starts in net, because if you don't have a true number one goalie, that's what you're going to see.
Right.
And right now, the Penguins haven't had a true number one goalie. Matt Murray's going to be coming back. We'll see how much that.
He hasn't been one either, to be clear.
No, but he hasn't been healthy. So if he's not healthy, then he has an excuse. So now we see if the Penguins truly have a number one goalie. See what Matt Murray does.
See, I just look at the team, and I see them as needing stability. And Jim Rutherford and Mike Sullivan have both used that word "fragile," which is a heck of a word, by the way, to describe
not
a
a good
professional
word.
sports team, right? I just see that as emanating from the back, where they feel like they can take a risk, they can take a gamble and not worry about it. It doesn't mean you give up odd man rushes, but it's where you find your confidence.
That's been true of hockey for the last 50 years at least. I mean, if everything kind of starts with the goalie. It allows your defensemen to be a little more aggressive, certainly allows the forwards to be a little more aggressive, and that's the way the Penguins like to be.
Do they have to go to the outside?
I want to see the internal options. I still believe they.
How much more do you want to see?
Let's go to at least the trade deadline.
Okay.
We still have almost 2 months before that
they
has to happen.
They might not.
Well, Casey DeSmith, I think, has shown himself to be a decent backup in the NHL. I mean, he's been responsible for them going 5-3-2 in the last 10. So he's deserved at least a spot. I mean, Matt Murray is sort of the X factor here for me. If he's healthy and he's playing like he can, then you have a number one goalie, and then you don't have a problem.
He's the everything factor as far as I'm concerned. He really is. He has to be good.
Dale, let's talk Steelers offense versus Patriots defense. I know that Bill Belichick is a defensive guru in his past, but this year they've seen some real problems. I think that they're not paying personnel to stay and keep that defense the same it's been over the years has come back to hurt them a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing, and I keep hearing it every once in a while, not as often as he used to, Bill Belichick takes away the other team's best option. He hadn't done that in several years.
Yeah.
That has not been the case. I expect the Steelers to come out throwing in this football game. I expect them to have success throwing the football in this game. The key is going to be, as we've seen throughout the season for the Steelers, they've run the ball when they've gotten inside the 5. They've run the ball into the end zone, in the red zone, especially when they've gotten in deep. Can they do that if they get into those situations? I expect, if I'm the Patriots, I'm putting Stephon Gilmore on Juju Smith-Schuster, and I'm doubling Antonio Brown.
Exactly. Put my best corner on number 2 and double number 1.
And I still think Antonio Brown wins that matchup if that's the case, because the rest of that secondary is not very good.
Yeah, I mean, they got the McCourty twins, but they're still, they're good players, but they're not the elite cover guys. And Antonio Brown's gotten the best of those guys when they play, even the one that's played on the Patriots and the other one that's played on the Browns. I think that they can definitely pass to set up the run. It'll help establish a little bit of a balance, and I think that's what they really needed to do more against the Raiders. If they had hit the Raiders deep a few more times, maybe that would have opened up more holes for Jalen Samuels to be able to run through. And I think that when you're playing the Patriots, they're not going to be they don't have a dominant front line. They still have Dante Hightower in the middle, but I do think if the Steelers can spread them out, hit them a few times, and get Vance McDonald into this game, I think that he can also be a big factor. I think that softens up the Patriots, and like you said, when they get down to inside the 5, maybe then you put in Chuck Sikora and let him pound the ball.
Yeah, I think that's the key. The Steelers need to find some way to run the ball when they get in close. The Patriots have given up 7 touchdown passes to opposing tight ends. That's the same amount as the Steelers, and everybody in Pittsburgh is talking about what problems the Steelers, how they can't cover the tight end. Neither can the Patriots.
Let's talk a little Penguins prospects and actual hope. Everybody's so busy, it seems like this year, just piling on to how bad everything is here. But it's not just who's at Wilkes-Barre. You cover them all the way down. Draft picks who haven't even made it to the pros yet. And there's one guy we've had our eye on, to our credit, since development camp, in my case, but before you've been watching Jan Droz even before that.
Yeah, I know Jan Droz stood out to you at development camp just from his speed, and he has really nice hands too. But I've been watching him. He's in his last year in the QMJHL. Shawinigan, it's a really bad team, and he's all they got. He's carrying the team, and he's been playing for the Slovenian junior team and
which is the lower tier of the juniors. People think of the World Junior Tournament like all the countries are in one pool. They're not.
No,
they're playing like Hungary and all kinds of countries that can't play hockey.
Yeah, it's the Division 1B, which is the third tier. It's Hungary, Japan, Poland, and
they can't skate backward.
No, and I watched their game against Hungary the other day, and I swear, the first period alone, he must have been out there 15 minutes. Like, he's really all they have. And
you would do that too if you were the coach.
Well,
though,
yeah,
right?
I did the math, and like it's something like he's factored into like 75% of Slovenia's goals this tournament.
So what stands out to me, because you were texting me about that when I was out on the West Coast, and I was like, I'm texting you back. I go, that actually reminds me of another Slovenian player and another Slovenian coach, because when I covered Andrej Kopitar at the Sochi Olympics, and Andrej Kopitar's dad was the coach, not because it was his son, but because his son was the only guy who could play on the team.
Yeah.
He never left him off the rink. It was funny. They're out there against like these all stacked NHL-based teams, and it's like it's just Kopitar against the world.
Yeah, and Droj has other similarities with Kopitar, because obviously, Slovenian hockey as a whole is pretty weak. A lot of those
small country.
Well, yeah, well, a lot of those players do what they do for their juniors before they come to North America. They'll go to other countries, and they go. Sweden's a pretty popular place just because defense.
Learn defense, which is Kopitar did too, by the way.
Yeah, that's where I'm going, because Swedish hockey obviously strong defensively. Slovenia's not strong defensively. Kopitar went there. Droj went there. And he learned defense there. He's actually learning defense in the Q now too, which is not something you see often.
Do you like what you see? I mean, the intangibles we'll talk about in a second, but do you like what you see of his numbers? I mean, is he putting up the kind of numbers that you would want to see, given that the Q has always been and still is an offense first league?
Yeah, he's factored into something of like 20% of Shawinigan's goals this year. I mean, it's hard to judge him. He's playing on a really bad team,
right?
Because I talked to him at development camp, and I asked him, like how he can grow his defensive game in the Q, and he said something like, well, we're in our own zone the whole game, so we're
only get real good at it.
We're only playing defense. So yeah, I like his numbers. He actually said before this tournament, he thinks he'd have a lot more if he was on a good team.
If he was on a good team and he got some more support, but that can strengthen him too.
Yeah.
I'm going to swing back to the intangibles, if you will, or the things that we saw at development camp. You remember when I watched him jump out of the defensive zone and he went bursting through the blue lines and stick handled around somebody, and I was like, I went to you like, whoa, who's that? And you're like telling me, and then about a half hour later I ran into Jim Rutherford out in the hallway, and I go, Jim, who's the Slovenian kid? And he goes, well, he's got to eat a little bit. And
because
but they like him a lot.
I talked to him after, and he's one of the skinniest guys in that room. But I mean, he'll work on that when he turns pro next year.